Bronx drill rapper K-Flock is in big trouble, and now one of his own people is speaking against him in court. A former gang member, Brockington, who people know as Douge, not Dougie B, has taken a plea deal and is now helping the prosecutors by testifying against K-Flock. Back in 2020, K-Flock reportedly used a firearm after someone used one against his friend Douge. But now, Douge is telling everything in court. When prosecutors asked about that day, Douge said that after he got shot, it was K-Flock who called him in the hospital. K-Flock told him, "You know we got you, bro," which meant they were going to do something about it. The prosecutors then asked if K-Flock and his crew attacked someone to get back at the people who hurt Douge. Douge said yes and told them that a person was hit in the face. The prosecutors also asked if he saw K-Flock with a firearm, and Douge said yes. He also said that K-Flock had been arguing with someone on Instagram Live that day. This matches what happened in the case of Oscar Hernandez on December 23, 2021. On that day, K-Flock was walking in his own neighborhood in New York City. He was wearing a blue coat, a ski mask, and designer jeans. Earlier that day, he had been on Instagram Live, having a loud argument with a rival. The argument was heated, and K-Flock was seen yelling at someone, going back and forth with threats. Later that day, as K-Flock was walking down the street, he passed a barber shop. Inside the shop was Oscar Hernandez, a man who already had a history with K-Flock. The tension between them was not new, and the moment Oscar saw him, he immediately recognized him. The reason was simple. Just hours earlier, K-Flock had been flexing his designer outfit on Instagram Live in front of thousands of viewers. His flashy blue coat, ski mask, and expensive jeans made him stand out. Oscar, already aware of their past issues, took this as an opportunity. He did not hesitate. He stepped out of the barber shop and confronted K-Flock right there on the street. Words were exchanged, and the situation got heated fast. Witnesses said that Oscar reached for something in his pocket, which made K-Flock react. In a split second, gunshots rang out. Oscar fell to the ground, and K-Flock quickly fled the scene. As Oscar lay on the sidewalk, bystanders rushed to call 911. Paramedics arrived and took him to the hospital, but it was too late. The only things left at the scene were bullet casings and the slides Oscar had been wearing that day. As soon as K-Flock walked past the shop, Oscar did not waste a second. He rushed outside, yelling at K-Flock, "What are you looking at?" His tone was aggressive, and his body language showed that he was ready for a confrontation. Since the two already had past issues, the situation quickly turned tense. K-Flock and Oscar started arguing right there in the street. Their voices got louder as they went back and forth, with both men refusing to back down. Witnesses nearby saw the two exchange heated words, and things escalated fast. At some point, Oscar made a movement that changed everything. Witnesses later said that he appeared to reach for something in his pocket. This small action led to K-Flock reacting immediately. Without hesitation, K-Flock pulled out a firearm. The moment Oscar saw this, he turned around and tried to run away. But it was too late. K-Flock fired multiple shots, hitting Oscar as he attempted to flee. Within seconds, Oscar collapsed on the sidewalk. As soon as K-Flock stopped shooting, he did not stick around. He quickly fled the scene, leaving Oscar lying on the pavement by himself. Witnesses who saw the shooting immediately called 911, hoping to save Oscar's life. Paramedics arrived at the scene shortly after and rushed him to a nearby hospital. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, Oscar did not survive his injuries. Back at the crime scene, the police found shell casings on the ground, along with the slides that Oscar had been wearing. However, they did not know who was responsible right away. For the first 24 hours, the NYPD had no solid leads. They began collecting security footage from nearby businesses and speaking to witnesses who had been there at the time. The real breakthrough came when the police turned to the public for help. They released an image of the suspect online and asked if anyone could identify him. This is where K-Flock made a crucial mistake. Just 1 hour before the shooting, he had been on Instagram Live, wearing the exact same designer outfit. His face was covered by a ski mask in the security footage, but his clothes matched perfectly. Fans quickly put the pieces together. They started tagging K-Flock in comments, pointing out that he was wearing the same outfit seen in the footage. People flooded social media, saying that the masked man was him. The NYPD now had their suspect. Knowing that things were closing in on him, K-Flock made a decision. He hired one of the best defense lawyers available. He and his lawyer then walked into the NYPD's 30th precinct together, where he turned himself in. His lawyer later released a statement saying, "Yesterday, I accompanied Kevin as he surrendered to detectives. Arrangements were made immediately once we learned he was wanted. As for the charges against him, we have started our own investigation and will address bail after reviewing the case further." As the case developed, K-Flock's lawyer became convinced that this was a clear case of self-defense. He pointed out that when Oscar was found, he had a loaded weapon in his pocket, and his hand had been reaching for it at the time. This is a self-defense case, his lawyer argued. The person who was shot had his hand on a loaded illegal firearm. When someone with a criminal record is walking toward you with a weapon, do you wait to get hurt, or do you protect yourself? But despite the self-defense claim, the case was far from over. Authorities believed that the shooting was linked to a long-running beef between rival street teams. With K-Flock's known ties to the Bronx-based Third Side crew, law enforcement saw this as more than just self-defense. Instead, they painted it as part of an ongoing street war. This case would be the beginning of even bigger legal troubles for K-Flock, as he later found himself facing federal RICO charges as well. What started as a street confrontation quickly turned into a battle for his freedom. Oscar then ran out of the shop and shouted, "What are you looking at?" Since K-Flock and Oscar already had problems with each other, they started arguing. Witnesses said that Oscar reached for something in his pocket, and that is when K-Flock pulled out a firearm. When Oscar turned around and tried to run, K-Flock fired. As Oscar tried to run away, K-Flock kept firing, hitting him again and again. When he finally stopped, he quickly ran from the scene, leaving Oscar lying on the sidewalk all alone. Luckily, people nearby saw what happened and called 911, hoping to save his life. Paramedics arrived and took him to a nearby hospital, but sadly, he did not survive. The only things left at the scene were bullet shells and the slides Oscar was wearing that day. For the first 24 hours, the police had no idea who the masked shooter was. They checked security cameras, talked to witnesses, and tried to find answers, but nobody could say for sure who did it. Then, the police turned to the public for help. They shared a photo online of the suspect and asked people to come forward with any information. Unfortunately for K-Flock, just 1 hour after the shooting, he was on Instagram Live showing off his designer outfit in front of 10,000 people. Fans quickly put the pieces together and started tagging his name, telling the police that it was K-Flock. Realizing he was in serious trouble, K-Flock did not waste any time. He hired one of the best lawyers and went with him to the NYPD 30th precinct to turn himself in. Later, his lawyer gave a statement, saying, "Yesterday, I went with Kevin as he turned himself into the police. As soon as I found out he was wanted, we made arrangements with the NYPD. About the charges, we have already started our own investigation, and we will talk about bail after reviewing the case." After looking at all the evidence, K-Flock's lawyer believed that he acted in self-defense. He said that Oscar reached for his own firearm first. When police found Oscar on the ground, his hand was still on a loaded weapon in his pocket. The lawyer argued, if someone with a long criminal record comes toward you with a loaded gun, are you going to wait, or are you going to protect yourself? He said that self-defense could be a strong argument in this case. Soon after, the NYPD released their own statement. They said they believed the shooting happened because of a long and deep rivalry between two street gangs, and K-Flock was right in the middle of it. K-Flock had a strong connection with the Bronx-based Third Side Street crew. He was deeply involved in street life while he was free. Being a big name in both music and the streets gave him a lot of power, but it also made him a target. His enemies were always looking for a chance to get back at him. This not only put his life in danger, but also damaged his rap career. Since he did not have many pre-recorded songs, his absence from music became a big problem. His best friend, B-Lovey, spoke about the situation in an interview. He talked about how some fans were upset with him and DJ Academics for the way they spoke about K-Flock's arrest. He said, "I am not going to lie. People act like they know everything, but they do not even know what is really happening." At the same time, K-Flock's lawyer was sure that they had a strong self-defense case. When the lawyer announced how positive he was about the case, K-Flock became emotional in the courtroom. He even made a phone call from jail to rapper Top 5, who told him, "Talk to them, Flock. You are coming home soon, man. These little boys are walking around with no jewels. They need you back." Many rappers showed their support for K-Flock, believing he had the talent to become one of the biggest artists in New York. One artist said, "He was the next big thing out of New York. I love his music. I am just wishing him the best right now. I hope he beats these charges because he has a bright future ahead." It would be a sad story if this was the end, but we are staying positive. But just when things were looking better, everything changed. K-Flock was officially charged by a federal grand jury with multiple serious crimes under the RICO law. This shocked the hip-hop world, and many reacted to the news. DJ Academics posted, "K-Flock just got hit with a RICO. It is really over." The situation became even worse, leaving fans wondering what would happen next. K-Flock is now facing a serious RICO charge, and if he does not beat the case or cooperate with the authorities, he could spend his life in prison. On top of that, he is already dealing with state charges that have kept him locked up. Many people are hoping for the best, but the situation is not looking good. This reminds people of what rap veteran Boozy once said about YNW Melly's case. "When the feds want you, they will do whatever it takes to get you." His words perfectly describe what happened to K-Flock. At first, his lawyer was confident that he could beat the Oscar Hernandez case because it was clearly self-defense. The evidence showed that K-Flock was walking away from the situation, and Oscar was the one who approached him aggressively. Witnesses even said Oscar was reaching for something in his pocket before K-Flock fired. With all of this in mind, his legal team believed he had a strong chance of winning. For a moment, it seemed like things were looking up for K-Flock. His lawyer was building a solid defense, and there was hope that he could get out soon. But just when it seemed like he might have a chance at freedom, the situation took a shocking turn. Federal prosecutors stepped in and hit him with a RICO charge. This was not just any charge. This was a serious case that connected him to gang activity and multiple crimes. It was clear that they were determined to make sure he did not walk free. Boozy, who has seen the way the system works, spoke on the situation. He pointed out how the feds always wait for the perfect moment to make their move. He said, "They let him sit in jail for years, and as soon as the law changed, they took him to trial. When they want you, they will not stop." This is exactly what happened with K-Flock. Authorities had been watching him for a long time, waiting for the right moment to build a case against him. The RICO charge changed everything. Now, instead of just fighting one case, K-Flock was facing a much bigger legal battle. A self-defense argument might have helped him with the Oscar Hernandez case, but RICO was a whole different story. This charge meant that the government was not just accusing him of one crime. They were saying that he was part of a criminal organization involved in multiple illegal activities. The situation became even worse when legal experts started discussing the possible sentences. If K-Flock did not beat the RICO case, he could be facing life in prison. This was no longer just about self-defense, it was about whether he would ever be free again. Despite everything, K-Flock's supporters continue to stand by him. They refuse to believe that his career and freedom are over. His legal team is working hard, arguing that the charges against him are exaggerated and that the evidence does not truly support the RICO claims. They believe that the prosecutors are using these charges as a way to ensure he stays behind bars, rather than letting the court fairly examine what really happened. Meanwhile, fans and fellow rappers have been vocal about their support. Many in the hip-hop community have expressed their frustration, believing that K-Flock is being unfairly targeted. Some see his case as an example of how the system is set up to bring young artists down, especially those who come from tough backgrounds. Others argue that the justice system is quick to label rappers as criminals, making it harder for them to get a fair chance at defending themselves. But as Boozy once said, when the feds want you, they will do whatever it takes to keep you locked up. K-Flock's situation is becoming a test of whether he can beat a system that seems stacked against him. The road ahead is uncertain, and only time will tell if he can clear his name or if the legal battle will be too much to overcome. K-Flock's lawyer later responded to the RICO charges, saying, "We are not surprised by the federal charges. We have been fighting Kevin's state charges for over a year now. Since the incident was clearly self-defense, it was never a strong case. But now they are using it as part of a RICO charge, which is extreme." The video clearly shows that Kevin was trying to walk away before defending himself against someone who was also armed. But despite how serious the situation seemed, the first day of the trial took an unexpected turn. Reports from the courtroom said that the prosecutors looked unprepared. They were stumbling over their words, struggling to answer the judge's questions, and failing to provide strong evidence against K-Flock. At the end of the first trial day, K-Flock looked emotional, which made sense. It was his first time facing a courtroom like this. But his lawyer leaned over and whispered something that gave him hope. "We are going to win this case." Later, K-Flock's legal team shared a message from him behind bars. He said, "Shout out to my fans and my supporters. I love you all. Just know I am staying strong."